the world's great novels. Since the times of the bards and the troubadours, many a story has been told of King Arthur and his Round Table, those days of old when knighthood was in flower. One of the finest stories is not a legend from the dim past, but a tale first told little more than half a century ago by the most typical of American writers, Samuel Clemens. We present the first of a three-part adaptation of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, another in our series of books that live the world's great novels.
As Samuel Clemens tells the story, he himself met the Connecticut Yankee in an ordinary way. But before long, an extraordinary thing happened. One summer in the 1880s, Samuel Clemens was traveling in England.
During that summer in England, I spent most of my time visiting places of historical interest. And I became somewhat familiar with England's past. One day I took a guided tour of ancient Warwick Castle. As we made our way along those centuries-old corridors, I fell into conversation with an old gentleman who seemed as ancient as the castle itself. It was pleasant meeting him, for he was a countryman of mine. And yet, he seemed to know more about the armor on display and more about the history of the days of King Arthur and his Round Table than anyone I'd ever met. Then our group paused at the end of a dimly lit hallway, and the old gentleman and I listened to the voice of our guide.
This is an ancient hauberk or coat of mail, date of the 6th century, time of King Arthur and the Round Table. The hauberk is said to have belonged to the knight Sir Sagramor the Desirous. Observe the round hole through the chainmail in the left breast. Can't be accounted for. Supposed to have been done with a bullet since the invention of firearms, perhaps maliciously, by Cromwell's soldiers. Now, if
Say, that's a strange one, all right. A bullet hole in a suit of armor.
Yes, it's strange, all right. Even stranger than you think. It had nothing to do with Cromwell's men, either.
What? I mean, how can you be so sure?
Which you will, I saw it done.
What?
In sooth, I did it myself.
I was so startled by the stranger's remark that I must have stood staring at the bullet hole. When I pulled myself together, the others had gone. I hurried after them in the dusty gloom, but my friends seemed to have disappeared. That evening I sat alone in my rooms at the Warwick Arms. The wind roared in the dark night outside, and the rain beat against the windows. The room itself was full of moving shadows as I stared into the fire, lost in a dream of the past. Who's there? I mean, come in.
Good evening, sir. I hope I didn't startle you.
Perhaps you did a bit. But sit down, won't you?
No, it's late for a man my age, but I thought I might owe you an explanation about this afternoon.
Oh, I'd certainly like to have one.
Here's a book I've written which will explain everything. I've never shown it to anyone before, but I'm getting old, so perhaps I should share my story.
I'm much obliged to you.
My room's just down the hall. You may return the book when you've finished. Now, good night.
You must leave so soon?
Yes, good night. I give you good den, fair sir. I'm an American. I was born and reared in Hartford, in the state of Connecticut anyway, and just over the river in the country. So I'm a Yankee of the Yankees, you can lay to that, and practical as the day is long. My father was a blacksmith, so I got to be handy with tools, even at inventing things. I went to work at the arms factory in Hartford, and in time I was head superintendent, but I wasn't one to take advantage of my position when a dispute came up, so that's how I happened to get in a fight with a husky mill hand. And it happened that he found a crowbar handy, and everything suddenly went dark. When I came to, I was sitting on a grassy meadow under a big tree. Standing over me was a big galoot right out of a picture book. He was on horseback and had a big spear sticking right at me.
Ho, fair sir! Will ye joust?
Will I, which?
Will ye try a passage of arms for land or for lady?
What are you giving me, Junior? Get along back to your circus or I'll report you.
Hold now. If ye will not joust, I claim ye captive of my spear.
Well, whether you're crazy or not, you got a mighty good argument in that spear. What's your proposition?
Proposition? I wit not what you speak in.
I wit not much myself, but which way is it to Hartford?
Sooth to say, I understand ye not. But come, let us wither away.
All right, neighbor, but where shall we wither to?
Even to yon castlements. Ken ye not the turrets even now?
By George, there is a village over there. What is it, Bridgeport?
Nay, Camelot.
Well, sir, I never saw such a place as that town we came to. There was a big castle on a hill, and there were fellows on horseback parading around the streets, all togged out in gleaming armor, plumed helmets, and gilded spears. And my man kept pushing me along while everybody gaped at me till we got near the castle. Then a drawbridge came down, and we passed over, and my man turned me and his horse over to some men who were standing around wearing out the cobblestones. They didn't look any too friendly, but I finally got one off a bit to the side. Pardon me, brother. I take it this must be some kind of a lunatic asylum. I wonder if you'd tell me where I can find the head keeper of the place.
Prithee, fair sir, do not let me.
Oh, let you? Let you what?
Oh, do not hinder me then, if that would please thee better. In sooth, I must be gone to my tasks.
Oh, so you work here?
Verily, I trow, if what question be asked, prithee tell whence camest thy strange and wondrous garb.
Oh, these clothes? Why, I got them at the Hartford men's shop. Pretty snappy, aren't they?
Snappy?
Now, I'd like to know what's going on here.
Truly, even now cometh the servant of thy captor, mayhap with news.
Oh, you mean this funny-looking kid in the shrimp-colored tights?
Aye. He cometh from Sir Kay to take you in his charge, I vow.
Hey there, Bud, are you looking for me?
An ye be Sir Kay's captive, I claim ye my prisoner.
All right, and who are you?
I am a page, and am sent to have you in my charge. And it please ye, fair sir?
And now, look, boy, I'm a stranger here, and friendless. Now, just tell me straight. Are you in your right mind?
Forsooth, I am indeed, fair sir.
And these other people, are they in their right minds?
To be sure. I wit not why ye ask.
Oh, then this place isn't a lunatic asylum?
Nay.
Oh, now, look. Either I've gone crazy or something just as awful has happened. Tell me, honest and true, where am I?
Why, in King Arthur's court.
In King Arthur's... Now, just give me a little time. Oh, by the way, what time is it? No, never mind the time. Tell me the day, the year.
Ye wit not that? 'Tis the 19th of June in the year 528.
528. Look, boy, is there someplace I could rest a few minutes?
Forsooth, that's why I have come. To conduct ye to yon dungeon.
A dungeon?
There ye shall stay, until King Arthur's court doth decide thy fate.
Well, I haven't done anything wrong, but if they want to put me in the hoosegow overnight, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. I slept that night, for I was even more tired than worried. When I woke up in the morning, my first thought was that I'd had a very curious dream. But then there was a rattling as the door of the dungeon opened. I blinked in the sudden light and then saw my young friend, the page, standing there.
It is morning, fair sir, and I have come as early as I might.
Gosh, I thought for a minute I was waking up, but this dream seems to go on and on.
Dream? Prithee, what dream?
Oh, what dream? Oh, why, the dream that I'm in King Arthur's court, that I'm talking to a page dressed like you, and that it's the year 528.
Hold now with your talk of dreams. Is it a dream, too, that you're to be burned at the stake tomorrow?
Burned? Tomorrow? Oh, now, look, they can't do that. I haven't even had a trial.
Oh, yes, you were tried last night by King Arthur's court and condemned to death.
Now, just a second, Clarence, my boy, if that happens to be your name. I'm not used to having things done that way. I'm a Yankee from Conneticut, and I've got certain rights.
Rights? Are ye not a captive and a slave?
Now, maybe I can't explain it to you right now, Clarence, but I've got rights all the same, no matter who or what I am. Now, you're the only friend I've got, but there must be some way you can help me escape from here.
Escape? There is no hope of escape. Not only are many guards at hand, but there are other reasons.
Other reasons? What reasons? Tell me, boy.
I should not. But Merlin the magician has woven a spell about this dungeon, an enchantment no mortal would dare defy.
Merlin has whipped up a spell?
Yes, I prithee never tell I spoke of it, or I shall die.
Old Merlin, is it? Why, I'd forgotten all about that old faker. Of course, he would be around to see how much trouble he can cause. Why, buck up, Clarence. I'll show that fraud a trick or two that'll curl his hair.
Oh, please, sir, don't speak so. 'Tis death to question Merlin's magic.
That's what he'd like to have you think. But it just so happens that where I come from, every man is more of a magician than Merlin ever was, and without any mysterious hocus-pocus either.
You, sir? You are a magician?
Yes, sirree, Bob. Now, I've got a little figuring to do. You said that yesterday was the 19th of June, 528, right?
Yes, sir.
Today, then, is the 20th, and when am I to be burned alive?
On the morrow at high noon.
Well, I guess every magician needs a little luck, and that's mine. I'll teach that Merlin not to fool around with a Hartford man. Can you get a message from me to the king?
Oh, yes. When I tell him you are a magician, he will hear me.
All right, Clarence. You go and tell the king that at that hour, at high noon tomorrow, I will smother the world in the darkness of midnight. I will blot out the sun, and he will never shine again. Can you remember to tell him that?
Yes. Yes, I'll tell him.
Now, buck up, Clarence. Why, you're about to faint.
But it's so terrible, so dreadful. Knowledge of such things must be learned from the devil.
Not necessarily, Clarence. In this case, it was learned from the old Farmer's Almanac. For some reason, Yankees have a way of storing bits of useless knowledge in their heads. Only this time, it wasn't going to be useless. I recalled that there had been a total eclipse of the sun on the 21st of June in the year 528, the very day I was to die. An eclipse that began a few minutes after noon. And still, I could be wrong, so I hoped the king wouldn't call my bluff. The next day dawned, and a tiny ray of light crept into my cell and moved slowly along the floor, signaling the approach of noon. And then I heard the guards marching towards my dungeon. The door was opened, and I was surrounded and seized.
The steak is ready. Come.
We walked along the dark underground corridors, then out into the blinding sunlight. We made our way across the enclosed courtyard, and I skipped a step as I saw the stake and the pile of faggots heaped about it. The courtyard was filled with a multitude of staring faces, but there wasn't a sound as I was led and fastened to the stake. It was then I turned and saw King Arthur and Master Merlin seated on a platform near. As the sticks were piled high about me, the king finally spoke.
Hast thou now aught to say, O stranger, ere thy execution be performed?
What if I had miscalculated? What if there was to be no eclipse? What if it came a few minutes too late? I glanced at the torchbearer standing by and decided to stall for time. I swallowed and then raised my voice. Mr. Master of Ceremonies, members of the Round Table Association, and ladies and gentlemen, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, on this occasion I would like to say a few words. I am reminded of the story about the two Hibernians, Sir Patrick and Sir Michael. It seems that once there was these two ancient Irishmen, and they were just walking down the high road when, forsooth be jabers, they peradventure to encounter a strange village. Sweat broke out all over me as I spoke, for I could see I wasn't holding their attention. I saw them twist and squirm and begin to gaze upwards. Then my eyes followed theirs, and I saw at last a rim of black begin to spread slowly across the sun's disk.
The sun!
It's turning black!
I knew that in another moment they'd turn back to me. So I struck a pose I'd learned in elocution class, my arm raised majestically toward the sun. Just then, there came two shouts.
Apply the torch! Apply the torch at once, I say!
Cease, Merlin! I, King Arthur, to forbid it.
Stay where you are. If any man moves, even the king, before I give him leave, I will blast him with thunder. I will consume him with lightning.
Heed him not! 'Tis but a strange chance, and not his magic.
Hold, Merlin. Even now it groweth darker moment by moment. I pray be merciful, fair sir. I, King Arthur, on behalf of my people, pray to spare us. Name any terms you choose, even to half my kingdom, but banish this calamity from us. Spare, I pray ye, the sun.
I have reflected, Sir King. For a lesson, I will let this darkness spread night in the world. But whether I blot out the sun for good or restore it rests with you. These are my terms. You shall remain king over all your dominions, but you shall appoint me your perpetual minister and executive. Do you agree?
Away with his bonds. Set him free. He has become the king's right hand and is clothed with power and authority, and his seat is upon the highest step of the throne.
Well, sir, by the time I waved my hand to banish the enchantment, I'd become the most powerful and popular man in that kingdom. They gave me the best silks and velvets they had and set me up in the best guest room. As soon as I got settled down, I made Clarence my general handyman and set about trying to bring the country up to date, or you might say ahead of date. Oh, I had the world in a jug. But I'll tell you that anyone who gets to be a leader on the basis of being a miracle worker is in for trouble. Naturally, before very long, the people started to want more magic.
Even now, fair sir, there is great restlessness among the people for another miracle.
Doggone it, Clarence. I don't have time to knock off from work and make miracles all the time. I've got important things to do. I've got to get an iron foundry going, and get some newspapers started, and get some good, comfortable furniture made that'll sell at low prices. Things like that are more important than magic.
Wit ye that Merlin is spreading rumors amongst the people? That ye cannot perform another miracle?
Huh?
That ye have no more magic?
Merlin, is it? Good old Merlin. Well, I'll just fix his wagon once and for all, and this will take your help, Clarence.
Prithee, only tell me what to do, fair sir.
Well, sir, first thing, I'm going to use my authority to put Merlin in the dungeon, the same one I was in.
Oh.
Then I want you to get notice around by herald and trumpet that in about 2 weeks I'll blow up old Merlin's stone tower with fire from heaven.
Merlin's tower? Odds bodikins, it is verily a fortress.
Yep, ought to be quite a sight blowing that piece of masonry all over the landscape. Now, look, Clarence, can you get hold of a few strong arm boys we can trust?
I wit ye mean those brave of heart but silent of mouth.
Ye wit well. You see, this magic will take a bit of preparation. First of all, we've got to make a few bushels of blasting powder. I know how, but I'll need some help.
Ye need only name the time and place to meet.
Now, my idea is to pack those tower walls with blasting powder. We'll have to put it in at night. Then we'll rig up a lightning rod and wire up all the different batches of powder. Along about this time of year, we're bound to get a good thunderstorm, and that rod will load up with electricity till all of a sudden, boom, no more Merlin's tower.
Oh, truly it soundeth like the most remarkable of all magic.
Well, now, it ain't just the size of a piece of magic that counts, Clarence. It's the showmanship. Then, too, we've got to get a little curiosity worked up here. So you warn everybody to stay away from that locality till the big event comes off. Well, sir, we packed that old stone tower with enough powder to blow up the Tower of London. We got our lightning rod all set, and I started to keep an eye on the weather. I sent out word that I'd give notice of the magic moment in advance by flags if it was daytime, or by torch baskets on the castle towers if it was to be at night. We had a lot of sunny days, but then the wind changed and I saw a storm was blowing up. It was one of those real dark, scary nights when we lit the torch baskets and that whole countryside began filling up with people huddling together in the darkness. We climbed to the topmost battlements of the castle and I sent for Merlin. Mr. Merlin, You wanted to burn me alive when I hadn't done you any harm, and since then you've been trying to ruin my professional reputation. Therefore, I'm going to call down fire and blow up your tower. But if you think you can break my enchantments, just go ahead and try. Step up to bat now. This is your inning.
I can break your enchantments, fair sir, and I will. Doubt it not.
All right, but you better get a move on. That lightning's getting close.
Look at him making an invisible circle, sir. What's the meaning of his strange motion?
Well, Clarence, he's got a little pinch of some kind of powder there. Oh, now he's striking a light to it.
Oh, it maketh a wondrous strange flame, sir.
Don't worry about it, Clarence. Uh-oh. I'm afraid we can't hold things off much longer. You've had time enough, Merlin. Now let me step in here and see what I can do. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to make ready, and 4 to go. Oh, taking a little longer than I figured. Hickory, dickory, dock, the mouse ran up the clock. There you are, folks. And when it comes to first-class magic, John W. Merlin, you just don't have it. But I'm going to let you stick around and prophesy the weather and do odds and ends like that. That's the kind of a fellow I am. Of course, turning the weather predicting over to Merlin was a sure way to undermine public confidence in him. There's no magician can stand up to that. And I didn't have any trouble with him for quite a spell. There wasn't any question who was head man in the realm, but I didn't try to horn in on the nobility. Didn't even take a title. All the same, I'll admit I was pleased when the title was finally given to me. The people just naturally started to call me the boss. The boss. Ah, that's the kind of title I liked. It stood for something, not like a baron or a duke or an earl, and it was given to me by the people themselves. Well, during the next few years, with Clarence working as my right-hand man, I made a heap of progress. We strung secret telephone and telegraph lines about, started up a few factories, and got a school system going. It was all undercover because I learned soon enough that you can't move too fast. But then, by golly, came the darndest interruption. It was Clarence who came running into my office one day to tell me about it.
'Tis wondrous good fortune, Sir Boss. There came us to the king's court a fair damsel from a far country. She bringeth a strange tale of a distant castle where her mistress and other maidens are held captive by 3 cruel and monstrous brothers.
Oh, come now, Clarence. That's an old story in these parts.
But, boss, these brothers are verily giants, each with 4 arms and with 1 great eye in the middle of the forehead. Whoe'er shall go to the rescue shall be the hero of the realm.
Well, there are plenty of knights hanging about the Table Round, Arthur. As I understand it, the crusading season doesn't open till later.
Ah, but, Sir Boss, that is my news. Though any knight would die for this adventure, our liege and lord the king hath appointed thee this damsel's protector, and yours is the honor of the rescue.
Well, now, just a minute, doggone it. Supposing I don't feel like gallivanting around on a wild goose chase.
Oh, 'tis not a favor one can't refuse, fair sir. 'Twould be a sign of cowardice and an insult to the king.
Well, I guess he means it as a favor, all right, and I suppose I'll have to take it on. Where is this damsel who started all this hullabaloo?
She awaits in now, Sir Boss. I shall summon her.
Pray do. And now, young lady, may I ask your name?
I heard the Demoiselle Elisande la Cattle Reese, and it please you.
Oh, the Demoiselle Alessandra. Do you mind if I just call you Miss Sandy, and it please you?
Yes.
Now, where are you from?
From the land of Moder, sir.
Oh, the land of Moder. If you'll excuse my ignorance, where is that?
Oh, it lieth in a far country, in beyond many leagues.
Well, in what direction?
Direction? Oh, please thee, sir, it hath no direction, for the road turneth evermore. Not one way only, but many.
Oh, I see. Well, just where is this castle you speak about?
It lieth there in the land of Moder.
But where in the world is... Oh, never mind. Clarence, maybe you can help me. Do we have a map?
A map? I wit not what you speak.
Oh, I forgot. I haven't invented them yet. But how am I going to get to this place?
La, your worship, that is lightly answered. She will go with thee.
Go with me?
In sooth, she shall. 'Tis the way 'tis always done.
All right. But how big are these four giants? What do they look like? Say, have you ever seen them?
Seen them? Oh, indeed that I never have, my lord. But I have heard from
Oh,
many
you've
that-
heard. Everybody's heard about them, but you never find anyone who's seen them with his own eyes. I guess there's nothing to do now but go and have a look for myself. On the morning we were to leave, Clarence and the other boys rallied around to help me put on my armor. Yes, I had to put on armor. Me, a man who hated even to doll himself up in a stiff collar.
Here is your chainmail, Sir Boss.
Chainmail. Now my greaves.
Greaves.
Backplate.
Backplate.
Breastplate.
Breastplate.
Screwdriver.
Screwdriver. Nay, I wit not what ye mean.
Never mind. But I do wish I had a can opener. What else is there?
Sword, gauntlets, helmet, spear, shield.
Oh, there's enough stovepipe for a 10-room house. Say, maybe I could check this baggage on through and pick it up at the station. Oh, I guess not. Even if we had a train, you can't buy a ticket to the land of motor when you don't know where it is.
Haste thee, Sir Boss. The groom is bringing thy horse.
I don't blame it for laughing. Whoa, boy. Steady, boy. Well, anyway, I have a way of getting up on this nag. Hoist me up with that pulley, man, then back the horse under me. No. At last, they got me on the horse. The king made a little speech, the knights cheered, and Miss Sandy climbed up behind me on a pillion, and we were ready to move off. As we moved through Camelot, the trumpets sounded, flags were unfurled, the sun gleamed on my armor, and the plume of my helmet danced in the breeze. Why, I even began to feel like a conquering hero, until we came to the outskirts of town where a ragged little hoodlum made a bullseye out of my helmet with a rock. No, sir. No matter what age you live in, boys just don't have respect for anything or anybody.
And so the Conneticut Yankee set off from Camelot in search of adventure in the land of motor. Next week, we find him justing with challenging knights, vanquishing ogres, and learning that the greatest terror of all is not an enemy in armor, but tyranny itself.
The Conneticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Samuel Clemens is one of the world's great novels, brought to you each week by the NBC University of the Air. The Conneticut Yankee is adapted for radio by Jack Wilson. Donald Gallagher is featured as the Yankee. The role of Clarence is played by Johnny Coons, Clemens by Jess Pugh, Sandy by Jane Elliott, King Arthur by George Kluge, and Merlin by Sherman Marks. Others were Charles Mountain and Cliff Norton. The music was composed by Emil Soderstrom, and the orchestra was directed by Bernard Berquist. The entire production was under the direction of Homer Heck. Listen next week to the second episode of The Conneticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Samuel Clemens. And don't forget that your local public library invites you to make use of its many facilities. To add to your enjoyment of this series, we recommend the Handbook of the World's Great Novels, which you may obtain by sending 25 cents to World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27. This is John Conrad, and this program came to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.